Hello everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I'm playing in the small 6-inch craft journal from Dina Wakley, and I'm going to do a double page spread using some distress paint for my background. So first of all, I've added in a thin layer of white gesso. The only reason that I've done this is so that the colours will be quite true to their actual colour and won't be affected by the brown of the craft paper. So I'm using a piece of acetate or transparency, and I've just put a couple of drops of the first colour that I'm using, which is lumberjack plaid, onto there and spritzed it with a bit of water to just move that around. And then once that's smooshed onto the page, I'm going in with ripe persimmon. That's that one that I don't like saying. I'm going to have to stop using that colour. And then I'm just doing the same. So I'm just going to layer these colours over the top of each other, and any bit that I've got left over, I'm just adding onto that tag that you can see on the right hand side. If I don't feel there's enough of one colour, I'm going in again, doing the same process again and again. So you may well have seen this on Instagram as a reel. I think I also popped it on Facebook, YouTube Shorts, sorry. So you've probably seen this already, but I guess this is like a much slower version, easier to see what's going on. So that colour is mustard seed that I'm using there. And I am drying each colour in between. It's one of the lovely things about these distress paints is once they're dry, they're permanent, and they work really nicely in the craft journal too. So this one is now Mowed Lawn that I'm going in with. So I'm building up those rainbow colours on the page. And I'm just kind of letting it go where it wants to go and not worrying too much about it. So then once all those layers were dry, I decided I wanted to see how the paint would work if I sort of rubbed it in using my finger. So I've just put the same colour, just a couple of drops on the acetate, and then I'm just picking up a bit of paint on my finger and just rubbing it onto the page in a few places, and that does just brighten those colours. It intensifies it a lot and creates a much richer effect. So then I'm using Salty Ocean, doing the same thing, popping a little bit on the acetate, a bit of water, and then just using the acetate to kind of print that onto my page. And then again, I'm just using my finger to bring a bit more of that colour onto the page just to intensify it. So you'll notice that it's not kind of making any muddy colours at all because the layers underneath are all completely dry. And like I said, once these paints are dry, they are permanent. And then when they're wet, they are water reactive, which is really exciting. I've also used picked raspberry on my page as well. It's really pretty pink. I'm just doing the same thing. So I've used the acetate to add the paint and then my finger to just bring a bit more intensity to that colour. And then finally, I am using Dusty Concord, which is that really nice pale lilac-y colour, and just adding that onto the page as well. And you can see those colours are so pretty together. And one of the lovely things about these paints as well is that they don't alter the surface of the paper, so it still kind of feels the same even though there's all this paint on there, which is a really nice quality. And then I added some splatters onto the page using the lumberjack plaid. After I'd done this, I really regretted doing it because then I went on to draw a face and she looked like she'd got really bad acne. So I whilst that maybe doesn't matter, it wasn't quite the look I was after, but you know, once you've done it, you've just got to embrace it, haven't you, and go with it. So this is a magazine image that I found, and doing a technique that Dina showed on one of her supporters lives, I have made this into a stencil. I think if I did this again, I would probably laminate the picture first before then cutting pieces out. So I think that would make it a stencil that I could use again in the future. And it would just mean it would be a little bit more sturdy and stand up to being abused with layers of paint going through it as well. So I'm just drawing through this at the minute because I kind of just wanted the lined details that I could then draw over using my Posca pen. So although you can't see it on the video, I have got the lines of the face, the markings where everything is on my page, excuse me, and I'm just going in with my Posca pen and just outlining those features. And then I'm using a Stabilo All pencil, which is great for adding those kind of nice smudgy details. So you can smudge it with your finger. It's also water reactive, and you can pull those lines out and add shadows. And I think, as I've said before, you just need to be a little bit careful not to go in with it too heavy, because then you can end up with the lines much, much darker than you wanted it to be. So here I'm using my stencil from Funky Fossil called Bee Leaf, and I'm using a really pale pink called Sponge Sugar, which is again one of the distress paints, and I'm just adding a really thin layer of this through the stencil. I kind of wanted to see how the lighter colours would layer over the brights that I've put on the page, and I think, you know, you could go in much heavier with more paint on the blending tool and it would layer really, really nicely. So this really was a journal page of just kind of playing and seeing how the paints would work in the craft journal, and I really wasn't disappointed. So this is also another stencil. I think this is called Dots and Dashes. This is one of mine from Funky Fossil again, and just using these to bring some detail and interest to the background. So I'm using this archival ink in a colour Vibrant Fuchsia, and I'm using a stamp which is from Natalie May Scrapbooking. It's just a text stamp with almost like typewriter font on it. just to bring a bit of text into the background because I haven't put any collage paper on there. And again, I'm using another one of my stamps. This is from the Grow Positive stamp set. Got a couple of these left on my website if you are interested in getting your hands on one of these. And I'm just using black archival ink. I'm just going to add in 3 places on the page just the idea of these popping onto the page. And then I'm also using my little dotty stamp just to add some more details around where the botanical stamp has just been added. So because I felt this page had some black contrast, but it definitely needed some white. So then I'm going in with some white splatters. I've just got my hand over the face that I've added because I didn't want any more pox going on that face. Because there was enough with the red splatters that were there already. So then once I've finished doing all that, I'm then adding in the words that I wanted to use on my page, and I'm just handwriting those using my Posca pen. This is a really fun way to just add a little bit more jazz to your writing. It's just to colour in any closed letters, so like the O, D, E, any bit that's got a closed part to it, just to add a little bit of colour. Here I decided that I would add some white because it would just bring that contrast forward on the page, because there was a little bit of white on there already. And then I'm just adding a few more white dots on the page just to help pull that all together. So there's the finished page. Lots and lots of fun playing with those distress paints. I love how they work on the craft journal, and definitely adding that white gesso helps them be really true colours that were coming through. So I hope you found some inspiration from watching this video. Maybe you'll have a play with distress paints too. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.